Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's episode, I'm joined by former captain and national champion of the Ohio State women's hockey team, Liz Schepers. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Liz. And how's everything going?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to get to talk to you, and yeah, things are going well.
Yeah, how often? I know you're playing professionally now, but do you ever get to talk about your college hockey days? I know you're sort of new to the pro hockey game, but I'm curious how often you guys get to talk about your college hockey experiences in the locker room or just off the ice.
Yeah, it's actually pretty interesting. A lot of the girls on my team now are players I'm pretty familiar with from playing against in college, so we'll go back and forth about when we used to play against each other and how things were at each of our schools. So I do get to talk about it quite a bit. I take any chance I can to talk about that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's always fun to reminisce on it.
So let's start off from the beginning of your career and kind of work all the way up to where you are today. So, you're from Minnesota. Talk about growing up there and how'd you start playing hockey?
Yeah, it's such a big part of Minnesota culture is hockey. So I started to skate when I was 5 years old. And then of course I have a lot of hockey players in my family. So growing up, I was just always around it. It was always on TV and always something I was in love with. So yeah, hockey's been a part of my life for as long as I can remember, and was very natural for me to get into it.
And who was your favorite player growing up? Was it someone on the Wild or was it a women's player on the national team?
Yeah, like when I first like seriously started watching hockey and like figuring out who everybody was, one of my favorite players was always Pavel Datsuk. Just for how smart he was and the things he could do with the puck. It seemed like nobody could ever knock him off it. So he was always a big one for me. And of course, growing up, went to a lot of women's Gopher games and things like that. So those were always girls I looked up to as well.
Nice, nice. Have you ever had the chance to meet some of those players in person? Because I know for a lot of those former women's hockey players, especially in Minnesota, helped out in the community um, off the ice a lot, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's definitely really special, and those girls do a great job of getting involved with the youth programs and things like that. Never anything particular, like nothing really jumps to mind, but it was always a good time when a group of our friends or our youth teams could get out to watch a Gopher game.
Now, before Ohio State, you played for your high school at Mound, Westaka. Talk about your experience there and what you took away from it.
Yeah, I had a great time in high school. We had a really good core group growing up that stuck through it and stayed local and played for Mound all the way through, which I think is really special and something that's really unique to Minnesota. Yeah, I had a great 5 years there and had the chance to play with my younger sister for a couple years and everything. So yeah, to be able to play for my home community for so long was something that I'm really appreciative of.
And how did your high school hockey experience help prepare you for college hockey with Ohio State?
Yeah, I think it prepared me a lot. I think the leadership role I was able to have on that team from a really young age helped me going into college and things like that. Learning those communication skills, learning how to lead by example. I think really again helped my development into college. And again, those friendships that I have, it's really nice. When you go away for school to have those to come back home to, and I've stayed close with a couple of my high school teammates.
What's the best high school hockey memory you have when you look back on it today?
Yeah, it's got to be playing in a couple state tournaments. We went to the state tournament my eighth grade year, and then again my senior year. So that was really special. It's always great to get down to the X. And then I think also to go to the state tournament into very different points in my career was really interesting to have different perspectives as the rookies on the team versus the seniors heading out. So very thankful for that experience.
I'm assuming you had more appreciation of that experience as a senior versus when you're in eighth grade because it's something you're not used to.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say making it that first year and then going through 4 years where you're not making the tournament, you're not winning in playoffs. Definitely taught me not to take anything for granted and to make the most of every opportunity you have because you never know when you're going to get back to those situations.
Now, what is the Minnesota high school hockey scene like? And because I'm from the East Coast, and every time I talk to someone who's from Minnesota, it sounds so different from what I'm used to because I could never see like a high school hockey game getting sold out in an NHL arena where I'm from. So I find that pretty cool. So I guess like talk about that high school hockey scene, and what's it like being a player in that atmosphere?
Yeah, it's pretty special, and I think, kinda to your point, I didn't really realize it until, I got to Ohio State and I was playing with players that came from all over the country and all over the world really, talking about their experiences playing growing up, but I think so much of it is that, like, local pride you have for your community and the kids that you grow up playing with when you're 6 years old to when you're a senior in high school. It's really special, and the talent that's there is, like, top of the line, and then to see the way the state rallies behind it, it's pretty special and unique. And anytime the state tournament's going on in St. Paul, you're gonna know about it.
Now, talk about your recruiting process to Ohio State. What made you want to go there versus other schools you might have looked at? Because I think a lot of people don't realize Ohio State wasn't the powerhouse that's known today when you were getting recruited by them.
Yeah, for sure. So I wasn't recruited all that highly out of high school, honestly. I didn't commit to Ohio State until my senior year of high school, which back when I was being recruited was pretty old. A lot of girls were committing as freshmen even or sophomores. So yeah, when Coach Muzz gave me the call and had me come out to campus, I think it was something that I felt right away was going to be special. And as you kind of said, the program was below 500. It wasn't this national contender like we see now. But I really believed in what Coach Muzz was trying to do and the girls that we had coming into the program and the girls that were committed to making something work out of Ohio State. And then as a school itself, like the resources and the atmosphere, really, there's nothing like it. I loved my time there, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Yeah, what was it like playing under Coach Mazeral? Because she seems very scary from an outside perspective, but I'm assuming she's probably a nice person in real life.
Yeah, I get asked about Coach Muzz quite a bit now being back in Minnesota where she obviously played and coached for so long. She demands a lot from her players, absolutely. But I'll say as much as she demands from you, she equally supports, her players and not only as players but as people and wants to see us be successful and cares about each of us. And looking back on it now, I really appreciate how hard she pushed and, the things she expects from us because without it, we're probably not winning a national championship. We're not being that contender, and what she's done with that program, and now I think her seventh season is pretty remarkable. And um, yeah, very very thankful for my time with her, and someone you definitely want to have on your side.
What's the biggest adjustment you had to make to college hockey? Was it the speed of the game, physicality, or just the decision making that you had to make?
Yeah, I'd say it's a combination of all of it. I came into school probably not, not the greatest skater. I'm still not, but those are little things you got to find ways to make work and find other areas of your game to really hone in on and create an identity for yourself. So that was a big part of it. And then just being away from home for the first time really was an adjustment, but can't credit like my teammates enough and the environment that we created there to help us all get adjusted at least socially right off the bat.
Now, obviously, during your freshman year, you helped Ohio State to its first Frozen Four. Talk about your freshman year, what you took away from that experience, because my favorite game was probably the BC game where you get that led you to the Frozen Four. And then
Mhm.
obviously you had a very tight game with Clarkson that obviously you guys lost in overtime. But just talk about what you took away from that whole experience and just what it was like being a part of that team.
Yeah, that team is very special. I think that's a group that will always be connected just because of how special of a run it was. Again, the year before the team was below 500, and then we come in. It's Coach Maz's second season, and she really knows what she wants to see out of her players, and we all bought into it and trusted each other, and were willing to do anything for each other. It was kind of like a fairy tale run, and we felt right from the beginning that we had something special. But I didn't think we know just how quite uh the season we were gonna have. I think those teams definitely taught me that hard work is gonna outwin any sort of talent that you could have on a team because we weren't the best on paper, but we were really gritty and we played our systems really well. So yeah, and I think that just set the tone for the rest of my career there to see that Ohio State can have success in a hockey program and we're on the right track. And obviously, it was heartbreaking not advancing to the national championship, and then who knows what would happen, but um, it definitely again put us on the right track, and I think made the rest of us that were coming back even hungrier to make it work in the next couple of years.
Now, one thing I admire a lot about that team is just the veterans that you had players
Mhm.
like Danny Sadik, Lauren Boyle, Charlie Dahlquist, and Aaron Langermeyer. What did you learn from those veterans that has helped you as a junior and senior when you were in those leadership roles as an Ohio State player?
Yeah, so much. I mean, those girls went through so many coaching changes, so many losing seasons and stuff like that, and to see us all rally together around those upperclassmen for that first year, it was inspiring. And it's when you're looking at it, that's what you want as a senior from your underclassmen. You want that commitment. You want them pulling for you as much as you're pulling for them, and for the season to be successful. So just like the appreciation and the fun that they had with our successful seasons was awesome, and definitely taught me not to take a win, not to take a season for granted.
Now, your junior year, your team won the WCHA when
Mhm.
Tatum Skaggs scored that game-winning goal against Wisconsin. Talk about what it was like winning the WCHA that year, and for the first time, especially since you guys took a step back during your sophomore year.
Yeah, I think that sophomore year was a huge wake up call for us. Not making the national tournament, just really losing games that we feel like we should have been winning. We kind of had to gut check ourselves and decide which way we were gonna go. And that season was unbelievable. So many like special moments from we went to Las Vegas and played games. We played in Hockey Day, Minnesota, and then to cap it off with winning the WCHA for the first time for our school was really special. We had some really good years and big moments, but we didn't really have any hardware or anything to show for it. Um, and to have that to kind of solidify that we're going to be a force in this conference and then nationally was huge for us. So that moment was really special, and that team's going to be connected forever because of that.
I do have to ask, what's the contrast like playing in Vegas, somewhere that's very warm, versus Hockey Day in Minnesota that's probably like below like
Yeah,
freezing, I assume.
that hockey day in Minnesota was like the coldest weather I think they could have had for that day without them canceling it. It was unbelievably cold. But yeah, Las Vegas was a great time too. We were out in the desert right before Christmas time and got to go on the strip a little bit and explore. So yeah, we really covered it all that year.
Now, unfortunately, you were supposed to play in the national tournament that year, but it got canceled due to the pandemic. Where were you when you found out that news, and how did you handle it, especially knowing that some of your seniors weren't going to get the chance to compete for another national championship trophy again?
Yeah, so this is like quite the story actually. We were hearing like rumors of some things getting canceled for other sports, other conferences, but we had our flight that afternoon to get out to Minneapolis to play our NCAA quarterfinal. We were at the airport in Columbus, ready to go, just about boarding the plane, and we got a call from our athletic director not to board. So, just to hang tight and see what would happen. So we all loaded the bus back up at the airport, and we actually went back to the house that I was living at on campus. Six of us lived in a house together, um, and we brought the whole team there, and we just watched the news, and we're waiting on a phone call to see which way it was going to go. And ultimately, that's where we found out that the season was going to be canceled, and we weren't going to have a chance to compete for that national championship. So it's obviously devastating and shocking. Like I think a lot of us didn't really know what to do or how to handle it. I'll say, thankfully, after talking with that senior class as well, we feel very fortunate to have won that WCHA tournament for them and ended their careers on a win, even though it wasn't as far along in the season or where we thought we could have gone with it. We're very thankful for that moment, and I think it makes that championship all the more special.
Now, how did your team handle the challenges of playing in the pandemic with all the regulations you had to go through that year? And do you think that made your team closer? Because obviously you had a special season, your COVID senior year, when you made it all the way to the Frozen Four in Erie.
Yeah, definitely. So it was between finding out, the NCAA tournament was going to be canceled in that 2020 year to when we finally started playing. I believe it was November. We didn't start playing games till. It was definitely a long road and tested us a lot. Our staff was unbelievable in like keeping us prepared, providing us with workouts and any kind of like little equipment things that we could possibly get our hands on. Like we really made it work. And although there was so much uncertainty of when we were going to play, I can't credit our group enough for like their toughness and the leadership that extends beyond the captains to stay with it and stay ready for when the time comes that we're going to get back on the ice, and to have that belief that we were going to get back on the ice. And then, yeah, to take that season all the way to the Frozen Four, obviously made a lot of it worth it. Our regular season was pretty brutal that year, playing Minnesota and Wisconsin so many times. But again, I think it only made us better and made our group closer, definitely, just the way we could kind of bond through it all.
Yeah, and obviously your team lost the WCHA championship that year. So talk about what was your mindset heading into the national tournament after that
Mhm.
loss?
Yeah, definitely. So that game, I actually was injured partway through it, so I wasn't able to finish it out, and there were a lot of things going on with that group outside of hockey that I think really brought us together and gave us some motivation. And yeah, the way we bounced back in the national tournament, I'm really proud of. Beat a good BC team, and then saw Wisconsin for like the sixth or seventh time that season in the national tournament. So it was pretty crazy. We knew we were going to get another WCHA team, and we wanted another shot at them. And unfortunately, we just came up short.
Yeah, how different was that Frozen Four and tournament experience from the other two that you had? Just
Mhm.
because you're sort of like isolated from the general public, and obviously, I don't know if there's probably not too much to do in Erie, Pennsylvania, but I'd never been there before, so I can't speak too much on that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're correct. So, um, um, yeah, it was very strange. We all had our own hotel rooms. We, ate a lot of our meals alone in our rooms, and had to get there a couple days early to go through testing protocols and stuff. So, definitely appreciate all the effort that went into making the tournament happen and making it safe and allowing us to play. But yeah, I don't think anything will compare to, getting to play in front of a packed crowd and with that environment and all the festivities that come along with the Frozen Four now that I, have seen a little bit of both. So definitely strange, but of course, the championship would have been just as fun, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely. Now, talk a little bit about the hockey at that Frozen Four. Obviously, you lost to Wisconsin. You were saying how you had to play them so many times throughout the regular season. It was sort of good to sort of see them again because you had a familiar opponent.
Mhm.
And then you obviously beat BC in the previous game that in that tournament. So talk about just that loss, how it motivated your team for your final year with Ohio State, and just what you took away from that. Because from I remember watching it a little bit, but also seeing the pictures from it, those puck battle photos are pretty intense. Just how got everyone was shoving each other back and forth, so you could just tell the intensity was there, in both those games.
Yeah, definitely. That Erie year definitely stung just because of how much you go through in that season. I mean, everybody did just to be able to play and to get to that point. So it definitely hurt leaving, Erie empty-handed. And then especially knowing that the next year that things are going to look vastly different with the transfer portal and with people taking fifth years or not taking fifth years and things like that. So, um, it was definitely really emotional. A lot of my all of my classmates really weren't around for the next season. So that was tough moment as well. But again, like you have to go through those losses sometimes to know what it takes to win and to make the wins that much sweeter. So you try to take what you can from it without letting it hurt too bad.
What led you to take your fifth year that season versus maybe just sort of ending your career right there?
Yeah, I knew right when, they announced that we were gonna get that extra year of eligibility that if, I had the opportunity to, I wanted to come back. Unfortunately, Coach Muzz made that work for me, and it was never really a question in my mind. I knew I love Ohio State. I loved being there and didn't want to take that opportunity for granted. Um, then I also knew that we had the chance to do something really special with the team that we were gonna have, and that we had a chance to win it all, and something that I wanted to see through.
And you were named captain of that team for that season. How'd you find out you were going to be the captain, and what type of leadership did you want to bring? Were you a vocal leader, lead by example? Like how'd you try to lead that your team that season?
Yeah, so I just found out through a conversation with Muzz, let me know that I was going to be in that role, and it's such a huge honor to be a captain of a team and to be a captain of a team at Ohio State. Um, and then I had great co-captains and assistant captains for both the years that I was in leadership positions, and a lot of girls that I looked up to on previous teams really showed me the ropes of like what it means to be a good leader and what it means to be your own kind of leader. I definitely found my voice in the second year a bit more than the first. I was a lot of lead by example, and I had a lot of other vocal leaders around me, so I could kind of step back in that role. And then this past season, being the sole C, not that it makes that great of a difference, but definitely found my voice a little bit more and that confidence, and had to lead a group with 11 new players or whatever it was. We had a lot of new faces last year. So I just tried to be steady and consistent and lead by example, and also be that voice for the team when we needed it.
At what point during that season did you realize your team was capable of winning a national championship? Was it like the first practice, or was it like during one of those early series that you had during the regular season?
It was pretty early, honestly. Again, we picked up a lot of transfers. We had a great freshman class coming in and a lot of really solid returners. And I think when you look at that, you can't help but believe that your team has a chance at the whole thing before you even step on the ice. And a lot of times, I think in sports, you can have it on paper, but you can't always put it together. And we found a way to do both, which was credit to our coaching staff, credit to the girls on the team up and down the lineup that bought into what we were trying to do. So yeah, it was funny actually. I remember this past season we had a all athletic department meeting. Like every student athlete, every coach, we had a little rally, a meeting. All the head coaches introduced themselves and their teams, and Mussy grabs the mic and she says, "I'm, Nadine Muzerall. I'm the head coach of the women's hockey team, and we're gonna win a national championship this year." And she just passed the mic on, and we're all like, "Well, let's make it happen." So
Yeah.
the tone was set very early from what our expectations were.
Well, if you say that, you have to sort of back it up. You can't just say
Yeah,
that and not back it up. That would be pretty
exactly.
embarrassing.
Exactly.
Yeah, if in my honestly, in my opinion, I sort of maybe I'm a slow learner, but I sort of realized that your team was capable of it during that DC trip that you had, when you beat some of those non-conference opponents. So talk about that trip. Obviously, what was it like being in DC, seeing all the cool monuments, but what was it like playing in that tournament? Because that was the first time I remember DC doing something like that for women's hockey, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was an awesome trip. I have never been to DC, so personally to be there and see the sights a little bit, and we had the extra day at the end of it to really tour around, which was cool. And a lot of our families came out. I remember it was Thanksgiving weekend, so it was nice to all be together for Thanksgiving as well. So it was a great, not only for the hockey to prove ourselves against those non-conference teams and really got out 2 tough wins, but also to bond and get closer as a group, kind of in the early parts of the season or when it starts to turn into a little bit of a grind around, Christmas time. So yeah, I think that was a huge moment for us and a great, memorable trip.
Now, what's it like playing in the WCHA and just the competition you face every day? Because there's no weekends off in that conference. Even with some of the teams that aren't ranked, definitely make you grind out those wins.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a battle every weekend. You look at the talent as individual players that come out of our conference, through national programs and stuff like that. And when you throw it into like very well coached, very well structured teams, it's anybody's night, any given game. Um, so yeah, it definitely toughens you up quick, and you got to get points every weekend to stay competitive. And yeah, we were definitely tested every weekend.
And throughout the regular season, your team was ranked one of the top 5 teams in the country. How did you handle that pressure and how did you maintain that consistency? Because that's something that a lot of a lot of your players on your team that year didn't really have to go through during their college careers, whether they were transfers or since they were younger players, they didn't really have to go through that throughout juniors, just all that attention that your team had.
Yeah, for sure. I think when you look at like my sophomore year, even after we came off that Frozen Four season, we didn't necessarily handle that well, having that target on our backs, and we again dropped games that we shouldn't and put ourselves in a bad position. So I think having that experience really helped the group of upperclassmen this past season, um, to handle that and to show those younger girls or people that are coming from teams that were in this situation, kind of show them how to be and like lead by example. But I think something that we always lean back on is that pressure is a privilege, and we're number one or two or whatever we were in that position for a reason, and it's because we have the team to get this done and make championships happen. So it's all about how you frame it, I think. And again, we had a great group of leaders that pushed that on our team really well, and we through it all we had a lot of fun. So that always helps too.
Now let's talk about the tournament because in the first game of the national tournament, you played Quinnipiac. Talk about the challenges that Quinnipiac brought and what it was like getting through those challenges and beating them in double overtime because I felt like that game really set your team up well for the Frozen Four to have such a tough game to win.
Mhm.
Because it definitely, I feel like those type of games prepare you where you have to just sort of go through those challenges mentally, but also physically as well. Because obviously it's a grind playing 60 minutes of hockey in college, but to add another like 35, 40 minutes is even more of a challenge. So talk about what you took away from that game because Corrine Schroeder really stood up for Quinnipiac and made it tough for you guys to get that second goal.
Yeah, she was unbelievable. And played her heart out absolutely. That game was probably the most nerve-wracking game of that whole playoff run. You know, from WCHA's and NCAA tournament, like that game was I aged years. But again, I agree that it did set us up well for the rest of the tournament. And we were definitely tense and all going into the overtimes because we did feel like we were outplaying them and have the rankings and stuff. You know, we were on paper the better team and believed that we should be in the Frozen Four, but to not have it be, such a clear win for us. It was a good gut check, and it showed that this isn't going to be easy. And just because we're number one, we're not going to walk through this tournament. So a lot of credit to Quinnipiac, a really well coached team, a really gritty, hardworking team that gave us everything we could handle. Yeah, it definitely is something looking back, one of the most memorable games, and um, my last game at Ohio State Ice Arena. So glad it was a good one. And fans got their money's worth for that game for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, was it beneficial to have, what was, I guess, was it nice to have your first tournament game at Ohio State because the last few experiences you had to play in a neutral site and then on the road. So it must have been
Mhm.
nice to finally play in front of your home fans for your last tournament game. That wasn't the Frozen Four, obviously.
Yeah, it really was. It was one of our goals from the beginning of the season was to host the first round of the NCAA tournament. That's something that our program has never done. So that was big on our list. And just to give our fans and community a chance to see that level of hockey and to bring the national tournament to Columbus was something that we're very proud of.
Now talk about making it to the Frozen Four for the final time. I'm curious what the off the ice stuff was like at Penn State because it seemed like it was probably obviously for you guys it's the best one because you won the national championship that year. But as from a fan perspective, I really did thought they did an amazing job posting it because of all the off ice stuff like the red carpet and just all the fanfare that went along with it. What was it like being involved with that?
Yeah, it was Penn State did an incredible job. Yeah, they really made us feel special and professional, and giving us these experiences. There was a lot of for some of us running around and doing media stuff and interviews and photos and all this, and then the little fair they had set up for us as well to take pictures and play games, and it was really special. Obviously, winning helps quite a bit, but just from an overall experience, I know our parents and everything had a great time as well, and it was very well done. Yeah.
What a contrast from Erie to Penn State, just like how different it was. That's just kind of crazy to think about.
Hmm. Yeah. No.
Now, in that
Absolutely.
Now, in that first Frozen Four game you played against Yale, what did you take away from that game? Because obviously Yale was sort of the underdogs in that entire Frozen Four. So talk about the experience that you had playing them in a non-conference game, and then just making it to the national championship game for the first time in your career.
Yeah, Yale had a great season and a great tournament. I think we were able to kind of tune into that a little bit, just thinking that that was the position we were in the first time that we were at the Frozen Four. I sometimes those can be really dangerous teams, that have nothing to lose more or less and are playing with a lot of confidence, and they can definitely give you a scare. And they played us in a close game as we expected. They have a lot of great players and play very structured and a good goalie. So, our biggest thing was just to trust our game the whole way. I think throughout the whole tournament and the WCHA tournament even, we knew like what we were doing up to that point was making us successful, and we didn't have to change just because of who we were playing, just to trust each other and what had got us to that point.
Now, talk about in the national championship game, you played against Minnesota Duluth. I felt like it was very similar to the Wisconsin game you had in your junior year Frozen Four, senior year Frozen Four, just because it's a team that you play a lot throughout the regular season. So I'm
Mhm.
curious, what was different about the national championship game against Minnesota Duluth versus previous ones that you've played against them? I'm assuming it's obviously there's a lot at stake, but it's just probably sort of weird but nice to play against a team that you're familiar with in that position.
Yeah, definitely. It was funny. They played their semifinal game before us against Northeastern. Went into overtime. We remember watching it, and we saw Duluth won, and we're like, of course they did. It could only be, of course we had to win our game, but it could only be us and Duluth. They always give us difficult games. I joke about it with the girls that are on my team now that played at Duluth that we just hated playing each other because our teams were pretty similar. And we always made for close series. But yeah, it was. You never want to like pick your opponent by any means, but at times it's nice to know what you're gonna get, and um, took a lot of questions out of like the championship game, which was nice. We just had to again trust ourselves and go to work against a team that we had seen 5 times already that season or however many it was. So yeah, I don't know. It was interesting for sure. And we knew it was gonna be a battle.
And talk a little bit about that game. Obviously, your team was probably very one of the most resilient teams in that tournament, but I feel like that game proved it because whenever Duluth would go up, you guys would tie that game. And then obviously Kenzie Hollisworth had that big third period goal to give your team the lead and ultimately help you guys win that game in national championship. So talk about that game, what you remember from it, and then just describe the emotions of finally realizing you won a national championship.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was such a back and forth game, and it felt like every time Duluth went up, we would tie it, and every time we went up, like they just wouldn't go away and all that stuff. So it really went down to the wire. Obviously, a huge goal there in the third period, and I think once we had that, we trusted ourselves to really lock it down for the rest of the game and not give them too many more looks or chances to tie it up. The confidence that we had in our group, I think, is something that's really special and something that I'll always remember. We just went in and knew we had a job to get done, and the job that we were really felt like we were destined to get done, and made it happen. So the emotions of it all are pretty wild still. It's sometimes hard to believe that that's how we finished our season, but that group was really special from the start, and not only being talented, but being selfless and hardworking, and some of my best friends. So it's really special and a moment that uh, I'll remember forever.
And obviously, as the captain, whenever people look up that Ohio State national championship, you're the first image that pops up. How cool is that to be one of the first people in Ohio State to touch that trophy?
Yeah, it's pretty surreal. That moment was really special, and to have my family there, so many of our families there, and then to bring it back and celebrate in Columbus with our school and community and institution that has supported us so much. Very grateful. It's super humbling.
And what were some of the fun things you got to do after the national championship win? Any cool people you get to meet or fun parties you get to go to?
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with it. Columbus did a great job of celebrating with us and really highlighting our team. Personally, one of the coolest ones was getting to go to the Blue Jackets game when they invited us and honored us, and we skated a lap around before the Jackets game started, and they played our videos, and I got to drop the puck before the game, so that was definitely one of the coolest moments for our team. And then um, just this past fall, then we were invited back for the Ohio State Notre Dame football game, and that was really special too to be out on the field in front of over 100,000 people.
Did you get to see LeBron? Because I saw him at that game. Or at least
We
like
yeah, we was there. We didn't really see him, but he was there and he was in a hockey jersey, so we'll take that.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I also have to ask how cool is it to have, I know this might sound like a stupid question, but how cool is it to have your last game ever played with Ohio State be that one?
Yeah, I and something that's something I'm gonna be super grateful for forever. I said this to the team too after we'd won, like such a small group of players get to say that they went out like that. And for me and my classmates, that's something that we're always going to be super grateful for. And um, yeah, it's pretty surreal.
So we're now in a segment I like to call the non-hockey segment, where I ask you some non-hockey questions just to get to know you a little bit more.
Cool.
First one is, what is your most embarrassing hockey moment?
Um, oh man, I've been known to fall in warm-ups a couple times, so I'll probably one of those.
Luckily, there's no cameras during warm-up, so you don't have to relive those memories.
No, I'll just pay a nice little fine to the team jar. So,
Now, what is your biggest pet peeve?
being late. Yeah, I hate being late, and I don't like when people are late. So that's one for me.
Yeah, I struggle with that sometimes, so I apologize.
You're just fine today.
Luckily, I was fine today, but it's more for like class. Like
Oh,
sometimes like driving up through campus can be a bit of a challenge to find parking.
fair,
So
fair.
that's why I'm late usually. So that's usually the thing I'm trying to do a better job with that, I guess. Now, if you couldn't play women's hockey at Ohio State, what sport would you want to play?
I don't know if I could play it, but I love watching the women's volleyball team. Big fan of them and gymnastics, but I am not capable of really either of those. I'm just a fan.
Yeah, they'll give you the ability and then you could just like do it
There you
then.
go. Yeah, put me in.
What music do you like to listen to?
Big Taylor Swift fan and country music. Those are the usually two go-tos.
All right, now let's ask you some questions about your teammates, and this can apply to any team that you played for with Ohio State, not just last year.
Okay.
First one is, who is the worst at responding to phone calls or text of any teammates you played with at Ohio State?
Mm, that's tough. Emma Malte will either spam you like crazy or ghost you for days. So it's really one or the other with her.
Well, she's busy like winning an Olympic gold medal, so I can
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah, she's got stuff to do.
Who is the funniest teammate you've ever played with at Ohio State?
Oh, that's tough. Everybody is a good time, I will say. Um, Elise Schneider could always get the people going. Liv and Elise could, yeah, they're definitely the team clowns.
Who is the best trash talker that you've ever played with at Ohio State?
Charlie Dahlquist.
Any ones you can repeat on the podcast? Obviously, since you graduate college now, I feel like you have a little more freedom to say it.
I don't think so.
All right, all right. And this, if there was any, obviously body checking isn't allowed in women's hockey, but who do you think would be the best checker on Ohio State women's hockey from the teammates that you've played with?
Mm. Oh man. Oh, Rebecca Freiberger. Yeah, she would definitely throw the body around.
And then final teammate question, and I'm not trying to be saying this because you're on it. I think Ohio State might have the best style in all of women's college hockey. I love the
Yeah.
pregame outfits that you guys pull off with. It's incredible, like how creative some of your teammates are. So my question is, out of all the teammates that you played with, who had the best style, pregame outfit wise with Ohio State? That's going to be a very controversial answer because there's a lot you
Yeah.
can choose from.
Yeah, we definitely they definitely go all out. I'll go a couple. I think Brooke Bink and Quinn Kuntz do a really good job, and they wear things, and Eve Savander, they wear things that like nobody else could wear. So I'll go with them.
Yeah, I remember the Frozen Four. They had like professional photographers there, and
Mhm.
they you guys went all out. It was pretty cool. I think Brooke probably had the best outfit, and Quinn as well.
Yeah, they do a good job, and we love a good theme. So sometimes you'll see the blackout, and we'll go in on it.
I also noticed there's a hat theme going around too. Is that just me? Like, is that just a coincidence, or is that something that's planned out?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to check in with them and see.
Now, what is the most interesting thing you've seen or read this week?
Um, I've been watching the Prince Harry and Meghan Markle documentary on Netflix. I'm pretty sucked into that right now, so I'll go with that.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the royal family, so I unfortunately can't comment on that. But speaking of like Europe, I watched the World Cup on Sunday. That was
Mhm.
probably the most interesting thing I saw this week was seeing
Oh,
Lionel Messi get his first World Cup. Great game and
yes.
definitely a fun tournament to watch.
Absolutely. I was watching that too. That was a great game.
And then final non-hockey question, I guess, is Obviously, it's the holiday season, so what is your
Mhm.
favorite holiday tradition?
So my dad's side of the family is huge, and they all come over for Christmas Eve. We have like around 50 people over at my house, and we sing as a family the 12 days of Christmas. So that's probably my favorite and least favorite tradition at the same time.
Yeah. I don't know if that my family definitely doesn't sing, and I don't. That'll be That's probably weird for like new
Mine
people.
shouldn't.
That'll be funny. Is it weird for like new members of your family to like see that? Do they have to join, or do you have to be part of the immediate family to do
Oh
that?
no, it's everybody. Everybody and anybody gets a number, and we all.
Oh man,
Oh yeah.
that's gotta be. At least it's a good time though. It's a good time. So.
Yeah, yeah.
Now back to some hockey questions now. First one is what should be done to help grow women's hockey in your opinion? I feel like you've obviously played in college for a long time and then now you're in pro. So I feel like you probably have a good idea what it takes to help grow the game. And I feel like on the college side, it's a good job with like putting the games on TV because that's
Mhm.
how I feel like you grow the college game because obviously people aren't going to watch women's hockey if you can't access it. So it's good to throw those
Right.
games on TV. But I feel like professionally, there's a lot of different like ways to grow the game, and I think at some point there's gonna have to be one league. I'm curious for you what your thoughts are on all that stuff and what you would do to help grow the game.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with the accessibility in terms of like visibility as well as, making one league for all the players to kind of pull together in. I think that's huge and ultimately where we have to go as a sport. Uh, and yeah, just like I don't know if you saw that our salary cap doubled
I
for
did.
next
That
year
was
in the
awesome.
PHF. Yeah, which is huge. So just continuing to, develop those resources um, to allow players to do hockey as a full-time job. It's not a side gig anymore. We want to make it as professional as possible. So I think that's a huge step in it as well. Um, yeah, ultimately coming together, I believe, as one, league or player union is where we are going to have to end up, and hopefully it happens in the near future.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And for all the younger players, specifically women's hockey players that are listening to this
Mhm.
podcast, what advice would you give to them on what it takes to make it to the Division One level where you were a few years ago or this past year?
Mhm. Yeah, I would say something that has stuck with me is like trust your own path. Not every path, not every journey to Division One or to professional is the same. You know, it doesn't mean that it's wrong, that it doesn't look like, your teammates. So I'd say that's a big thing, and just to continue having fun with it. I think that's the most important part, and to find joy in the hard work and in the little things, and just spending time with your teammates. Not to take any of that for granted, and yeah, just continue to enjoy the process.
Yeah. Well, do you have any shout outs you want to give to your former teammates, current teammates, family members, friends? Feel free to give them a shout out or you can promote something. The floor is all yours.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I'll give a shout out to the girls back in Columbus. They're on Christmas break right now, but getting back after it soon. And then, yeah, catch the Whitecaps back in Minnesota. We'll be back at home in February.
Yeah, that's awesome. You got a good team going. I saw that like
Yeah, yeah,
Snodgrass had a couple of nice goals a couple weekends ago.
yeah, yeah. We've got a great group, and we're really starting to put it together. I feel like so. Hopefully, this second half continues to go well for us.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Liz. I really wish you nothing but the best for your future endeavors in pro hockey. I know you're going to do great with that. And thank you so much for your time and coming on and talking about your college hockey experience. It really means a lot to me and all the other listeners of this podcast.